Hey guys, Chodaros. Welcome to another tutorial. This bracelet was designed by MSLoom on Instagram, and it is called the Marie Louise bracelet. It is a variation of MSLoom's Josephine bracelet, which is a recent design, and you can find the tutorial for that one on my channel as well. What you see here is exactly what you get when you pull this bracelet off the loom. It's that well designed in my mind, because there is no fixing of bands, no nothing. It's a great design. It's thick, and it is built off of 6 pegs. So this one in particular, the color, I'm hoping that you can see the colors. I have a little bit of poor lighting here. My outer perimeter bands are the Sweets White, and then in this area here, here, and here, that is the Mother of Pearl and the Glitter White. Let me see if I can zoom in if it's any better. There you go, a little bit there. These white bands next to the pearls are metallic white, and the bands that I used, I believe my beaded bands are probably glitter white. I think, pretty sure that's what they are. So those are the colors that I used, and if you want a clearer look, obviously it's posted on the beginning of this tutorial, but please do go on to MSLoom's account on Instagram and see the different variations that she has made as well. So you will need, for a full wrap, 2 looms. My wrists are not that big, but I just want to show you quickly that this bracelet is 2 looms, and it just snug, a little tad bit snug, fits my wrist. Okay, so I would probably add just a couple little chain link couple, just for a little bit of an extension. If you just use 1 loom, then you can figure your extension by your wrist size. And as I mentioned before, this bracelet will be 6 pin bars wide. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the setup. Okay, so you will need to have your pin bars like this. So your first pin bar, and then your 6th one, your last one, they'll be at 1 height, and then your middle 4 pin bars will be at the same height together, but they will be 1 peg longer. So we only have 2 heights. The first and last are at 1 height. We go down 1 peg, and then we place these 4 pins right there. And then I'm going to do a quick, just a quick show of how I set up my loom. It's a pretty good setup. I don't think I had, just maybe a little bit in the middle. It was trying to cave a little bit whenever I was getting ready to loom up my last layer of bands. But I know sometimes it can be kind of challenging figuring out which way to have your loom. Okay, so today I'm in a purple mood. So for the white sweets, I'd like to use the they're the Rainbow Loom 600 pack Persian purple. I'm going to use that for any type of outline, so my border, possibly like these bands in here. And then the bands in the center and on the sides here, I'm choosing to use both the deep purple opaque excuse me, and also the purple sweets. These are a newer band, all by Rainbow Loom, which can be found on their website. Okay, and again, if you're going to do a full wrap, you'll need to have 48 beaded bands before we begin the tutorial. So you can go ahead and pause, or if you checked me out on Instagram and Facebook, I did post that earlier on, so you guys could get ready. Alrighty, so let's start. It's a very, very simple design, meaning that it's not complicated to loom. So it's just the preparation is the most time-consuming part of it. So the first step of the bracelet is to lay our perimeter. I'm going to show you how to do the first couple rows, just this one right here in particular, and then we're going to go ahead and loom that up ourselves. I really don't want to spend a lot of time on the normal looming techniques, so we can spend the majority of our time on the looming. So just to start out, for our perimeter, with our 4 pegs in the middle, we're going to go from the 3rd pin bar over to the 2nd, and we're going to place a band. And then we're going to go ahead and place a band from this pin bar to this. So pin 4 and 5, like that. Okay? Right here in between these 2 pins is the middle of your loom. We're not adding any bands there right now. Okay, so this is starting our perimeter is normally how we usually do. We start on one side, loom it up, or place the bands, and then the other side as well. Okay, so you want to take whatever color you're using for your perimeter, and you want to take that color and place them on all the pegs on both sides of the loom. Okay, and when, let me see, push this back, when you reach the top of your loom, okay, you're going to stop at the second to the last pin right here. Okay, so then you will bring your band in, like that, and then as we did on the beginning, we'll just add a band and add a band like that. Okay, so that's how we're going to close it up. So if you're doing the full loom or 2 looms, it's the second to the last peg, and then you take your band in and then separate with 2 separate bands there. So go ahead and loom up your perimeter, and then we will meet back here in a minute. Okay, so once you have your perimeter bands laid, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to lay zigzag bands going up from the 1st to 2nd pin bar, and then the 5th to 6th pin bar. So 2 zigzag patterns all the way up both sides of our loom. So I will just do a couple of each, because this again is a pretty basic step to the large bracelets. So you're just going to take and place a band from here to here and here to here. So you're basically just making a V, and then where you left off, you want to go back in and then take a band out. Okay, so you're just going to continue that all the way up your loom on this side here, and then whenever you're finished, come over to this side, and we're going to do the same thing. Band gets placed from there to there, and we make the V. Okay, so it's the same as on the left side, and then take your band in and then back out. So you can either choose 2 different colors or use the same color. I use 2 different ones in my other version. So just to clarify, the bands that we're placing now is are the bands right here on this part of the bracelet. And then we're also going to lay another zigzag pattern down the middle of the loom. So if you want all your colors to coordinate, you know, this is the time you can set them all up. Alright, so you guys go ahead and continue placing your zigzag bands all the way up to the top of your loom, and then we will meet back here in a minute. Okay, so this is what your loom should look like so far. So we have the zigzag going all the way up to the top. Okay, let me show you, just so you are clear. The last zigzag band goes to that peg right there. Okay, so our next step again is a super basic step, which I will show you the beginning, and then you guys can go ahead and finish out. The next step is to just simply add a single chain up the second pin bar and the fifth pin bar. Okay, so it's the two pins that we have our zigzag bands on. We're just looming up a single chain on each one. Okay, so you can either just go the whole way up your loom and come back down, or you can do them at the same time. Either or, you're just going to take it all the way up to the last peg in the row, and then we can begin our next step. So go ahead and loom up your, or place your bands for your single chains, and we'll meet back here in a minute. Alright, this is what we should have so far. So all we did is just add 2 single chains up the second and fifth pin bars. Okay, so we have one more step of placing bands before we get to our beaded bands. So next step, simple as can be, we are going to be adding X bands up the 2 center pin bars. So whichever one you start out with is the one that you need to end up with. Okay, meaning I'm starting out from the right going to the left, and then going from the left to the right, and my goal is to repeat that pattern the whole way up so I do not misloom any of these bands. Okay, so this should be right here in the center. It's not touching any other bands that we have placed on the loom so far. So again, this is simple, basic adding of bands. So go ahead and finish your X bands all the way up until you reach the last 2 pins, and we'll meet back here. Alrighty, so we have just gotten finished. We just finished placing our X bands up the 2 center pegs, and there is one thing that I did miss. You might not have missed it, but I do want to capture it just in case. The single chains that run on the second peg and the fifth peg, I did not start mine from the first peg. I started it from the second. So I'm just going to place that band and then put this one on top. I'm not sure if I did that, if you guys followed it or not, but I'd rather fix it, and then whenever it's time for us to loom it, we're all on the same page. Alright, so if you are this far, then it is time to place your bling bands, your beaded bands. So as mentioned earlier, we should have about 48. I believe that will cover the entire width of 2 looms, minus the first and the last row. Okay, so it would be 50, but we're doing 48 for 2 looms. If you're only doing 1 loom, just half that, and that's your bead count. So for each row, we put 2 beads. So that's why it's double the amount of rows on your loom. So, and this is extremely easy step as well, so we don't have to go through the whole thing together. So I'll just show you how we place them and then we can move on. You're going to take one bling band and you have a nice like a whole space in between these 2 pins and these 2 pin bars. That's where our beads are going to lie the whole way up our loom. So we're going to start on these 2 pegs here, which is on like the 2nd row going across. You take one side of your beaded band on that pin and place the other one like that. Okay? And then you're just going to grab another beaded band, do the exact same thing on this space. Okay? Super simple. And you're going to do that on every single row, so we're not skipping any, we're just going to continue that pattern. All the way up the loom, minus the last row. So since this bracelet I had shown you that you can do it without beads, and I only say this in case some of you do not have 48 beads. You could do every other row and I believe it would still look just as pretty. You're not going to have any gaps because you will have a single chain band where you lack a bead. So there are options to still make the bracelet even if you don't have that many beads. I think everybody should be able to loom with no, I always think of the ones that don't have, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's figure out a way. There's another way, and I'm sure you've seen it before. If you don't have any beads, you could always take another color band and wrap it around this band 4 times or so just to make it tight, and you could have it appear as if it is a bead on that band if you don't have any beads. So there are definitely some ways that you can bypass, but if you do have them and you enjoy blinging, this is definitely one that you can be creative with. Alrighty, so go ahead and finish placing your beaded bands all the way up minus the last row, and then we will meet back here in a couple minutes. Alright, so we have all of our bling bands placed on our loom, and I already flipped mine around. So that is the last step of adding bands. So we just have to add a couple cap bands and then we will be ready to loom it. Just fixing mine. So if you notice my beads are like a pearl color. In order for me to get this tutorial out quicker, I had to stop filming and take apart my original bracelet, so I had to use those beads. I didn't have the time to put other beads on bands, so but I still think it's gonna look pretty. Alright, so we need to add the same color that you used for your beads, whatever color that band is. Like in my case it's the mother of pearl. You need to get 2 of those, and you want to place one right there and place another one right here. Okay, and now we need 3 bands the same color as your border. So on the second pin we want to add, oh gosh, I'm so sorry if I was off camera. On the second pin we need to add a cap band, and then on the third and fourth pin we're going to add a cap band, so double it and place it on both of those pegs there. And last, on the fifth pin bar, or fifth peg over, another cap band. Okay, so once you are completed with that, we are ready to loom. Alright, so we're basically going to loom this as we do a normal bracelet, meaning whatever band is on top is getting loomed first, and every band is getting loomed back to itself. So there's no, you know, different type of looming. But the first step of this is to loom up all of our beaded bands. Okay, so we have to do both sides. So you want to go into this second pin and grab that band that we placed. So it's the first band, which is what we just placed here. It should be the same color as your beaded bands. We want to grab that band under the cap band there and pull it up to the peg in front. Okay, and then we want to go into the peg next to it, grab the same band and pull it up to the peg in front. Okay, we don't have a bead on that band, but we're going to come over to this side, and I just want to do this one just to get that one done with. So again, we're going to go in and grab that top band, take it to the peg in front, go under the cap band, grab this top band here, and take it to the peg in front of it. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these with you, but it's just basically, you know, typical original looming. So now that every time that we pull one of these beaded bands forward, it's going to act as the cap band for the next pin. So as you can see, the first one we loomed up is the acting cap band for this beaded band. So as long as you're going inside whatever band is on top, grabbing your beaded band and just pulling it to the peg in front of it. Again, going inside, grabbing that band and pulling it ahead. Okay, same thing over here, inside, pull it ahead, inside, and pull it ahead. So you can either go up one side and come back down and do the other side, or you can do them both sides together. I'll do a couple rows with you, and then I'll meet you back at the end. Just watch your bands, because they're pulled pretty taut, that they don't slide off of the pin bar or on top of off the pins. I think I prefer more just to go up one side and come down and grab the other instead of stopping and starting. Okay, but you guys do whatever is comfortable for you. So again, just only looming up the beaded band. So this is exactly the same as the Josephine, except the only difference is we're adding 2 layers of beads instead of just that middle layer there. Okay, so how about we part here, go our separate ways, and finish up our looms, and then meet back here at the end, and we can go to the next step. Alright, so your loom should be looking like this. So I fibbed. I said every band that on this loom gets loomed back to itself. Well, I'm sorry. The beaded bands are the one exception, that they do not get beaded. They do not get loomed back to themselves, but rather up the loom, which gives it an odd look, but it is correct. Alright, so the next step, which is very basic and simple, is just looming up this X we have on the 2 center pegs. So just for my preference, and I did learn this from at Deb's thing, I forgot to mention that in the other tutorial that I've done. In the first X, pulling up the bottom band gives the correct look when you're starting out your X bands, okay, because it has something to hold on to. So instead of pulling like we normally do is the top band first, pull your bottom band up and then your top to do your first X. And then after this, we want to go and every single top X band gets looped first. So in case you, it happens to me all the time, in case you know, got out of order when you're placing your X bands, always just keep out making sure you're looming the top. It's not that big of a deal. It's an appearance thing, because I used to never care. When I first started looming, I just loomed up my X until I noticed that you can tell which part was pulled first. It gives your bracelet an uneven look. But anyway, go ahead and loom all of these bands up until you reach the end of the loom, and then we will meet back here to start the next step. Alright, so we just completed looming up our X bands on our 2 center chains, and our next step, super simple, is we're just going to loom up the single chains on the 2nd and the 5th pin bars all the way up. So if you prefer to do one, come back down and grab and do the other, however you prefer, but you're only going in and grabbing the top band and just looming it back to itself all the way up. Super simple. So I'll just come down here and start this one, and then again we will part ways and then meet up at the end. So technically the only band that should be on top, which is your acting cap band for this step, is your beaded band. That's the only one that you're going under. Okay, so go ahead and finish up both of those to the end of your loom, and again we will meet back here for the next step. Alrighty, we are getting close here to the end. We just have 2 more steps and then we'll be able to pull it off our loom. So the next step is to loom out the zigzag bands on both sides of our loom, and then of course the last step is to loom out the perimeter. So you guys are on your own. If you are confident to go ahead and loom it out yourselves, that's all that's left, or you can follow along and we can do it together. So all of the zigzag bands go out, none of them come back to the center. So you're always grabbing from the center pegs and always taking the band back to itself on the outer pegs. And the reason we do that is obviously because we have no more bands to loom up in the center. So if you put any bands on any other peg, it will fall off when you take it off the loom. So putting these bands on the outer pegs allows the perimeter band to catch, and then it won't fall off. So you always want to make sure you're grabbing the top band and that there's nothing caught, so they're perfect shaped teardrops. And it is quite a treat to use opaque, as they don't twist nearly as silicones and other bands, so you can kind of just loom it up smoothly. All right, I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me loom up mine, so you guys go ahead and finish up yours, and we will meet up for our last step, and I am going to loom that with you. Okay, so finish up on both sides your zigzag bands, and then we'll meet back up for our last step. Alrighty, so we are now on our last looping step, which is looping out the perimeters. So we're going to start here on the center peg, the center left peg, so we have that space in between. Go underneath the cap band and just pull that up and over. So every one that we're grabbing is the last band on the peg. If it's not the last band on the peg, your bracelet will fall apart. Alright, I have to loom it from this side because I'm left-handed, so I'm sorry. But I think you guys are good to do the perimeter. Alright, well, I think you guys are good. We don't have to sit here for 2 loom lengths of doing the perimeter. But I will show you, we do the same thing on the right as we did the left. So you go into that center right peg, grab that bottom band, and go into the next, the bottom band, and then it is straight up the loom. If you're sure when you get to the end of the loom how to close it up, go ahead and do so. If you're not quite sure at the end, then we can meet back up there and we can close it up together. So go ahead and finish looming out your perimeter bands, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I just stopped on both outer rows on the last pegs. That way, if any of you are unsure on how to close it up, we can do it together. So I still have all of these to loom out for the perimeter. Okay, so we're just staying in order and taking them back to themselves. So on this side, we stop there. And then on this side, we stop on the center right. So I did not remember to put a band here like I like to. So I have to go ahead and put one in here now. So because I'm using these 600 pack Persian purple bands, I'm going to use 2 of them. Make sure that it's secure. So I'm just going to go down and to my left center peg through all those bands and grab these two, bring them up through the center, and I'm just going to go ahead and put them back on the peg. Normally I will just kind of hold them until I get the other side, but there we go. I think it's on. Nope. The two bands that there we go. So that equals to 4 bands for your C-clip. Okay, so if you want to grab your C-clip now, if you possibly have like the large hold one, and then just stick all 4 like that. All right, so if you dare, you can pull it off. I don't. I'm just going to take all of the outside bands off, which alleviates some of the tension, which helps so we don't break bands and stretch out bands in our bracelet. There we go. Now I understand. I've never been one to really make a lot of large bracelets. I was just I was never into adding the looms together like this, but I do enjoy it. I do enjoy making them now, so that's pretty cool. But I don't enjoy missing a band. Gosh, the days where it was like almost every bracelet I did, I missed a band. All right, so these will kind of slide off. There's really nothing that's holding them on that peg, so if you see them come off, it's okay. So if you want, you can take off the rest of the bands, or you can grab your C-clip. So I'm going to, I'm sorry, this is 2 looms and I'm in a tiny space where I film. I'm gonna take this band here that I have the C-clip on and take these outer ones off here and take these off. So if I feel there's tension, I'm definitely grabbing bands, especially when you're using beads. You never know what can happen to the band when you're adding the bead to it. Sometimes if it could have a sharp edge on the bead and it could like jar the band a little bit. So just be careful. So I think if I pull back a little bit, able to grab. Usually when you get it started, you can probably looks like I'm being totally harsh, but I'm not pulling hard. and the last. Alrighty then, we are finished. Woo! I love the colors. Super awesome colors. So I hope that yours looks like this, if not somewhat similar. So you can definitely tell which side is the back side and which side is the front. The front side, it has it's raised, okay, and you have your like half starburst almost, if you will, which are my purple bands here. I'm just trying so you can make sure you guys can see them. Okay, and if you notice, you can see the bands that you used for your bling somewhat in the center there. If you flip it over, you can see them. They're completely lined on both sides of the center. That band's just twisted a little bit. So I hope that you enjoyed making this Marie Louise bracelet designed by the ever so talented up-and-coming blinger MSLooms. Please hashtag your renditions to us on Instagram. Hashtag Marie Louise bracelet, which is shown below how to spell. Hashtag MSLooms, and of course Chodaros bling. Can't wait to see the color combos. Super excited. So thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed making this bracelet as much as I did, and stay tuned, more tutorials are coming your way. So until next time, keep blinging it. Bye.